Welcome to the Treat Dogs Like Dogs podcast episode. I think 25 is the episode I'm on right now. And
Dude,
yeah,
it's
dude.
an honor to
And
be here on the quarter to 100.
say again?
It's an honor to be here on a quarter to 100.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been slacking, honestly. Honestly, I have. Oh, yeah. So, any viewers listening, I have Jayson on the phone with me, and that's how we're going to do this episode. And we met through TikTok.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we were viewing each other's content and slowly started communicating via the comments and then the private messages, and then, you know, asked Jayson if they wanted to be on the podcast. So, Jayson, just a little bit, just an overview and stuff. Like, what is your like capacity in like the dog training world, and what do you want to do with it? Kind of give a little overview of yourself, real quick.
Yeah, so I'll start from like how I got into this stuff. So I was like 18, 19, and I was moving out of my town where all my family was with my fiance. And I had no dog training experience, but I was like, I want to get something that at least looks like it can protect me, right? But I'm not an idiot. I know that if I have a dog pulling me down the leash, like I'm gonna look like a dumbass. So I was like, okay, I got to learn how to train him like a little bit. And so that was the first dog that I ever trained. And unfortunately, he passed away due to a lot of health issues. But after that, I am a video editor, so I ended up working for American Standard Canine Garrett Wing as a video editor, and I ended up like learning a lot of dog training from him and recognizing like, hey, I really want to get into like dog sports. So now here I am with my hopefully shuts into 3 dog eventually. And so for me, I feel like my current capacity as a dog trainer, I know I'd say a lot of the theory behind it. You know, I feel like people see me with just one dog and they're like, "Oh, he's just another guy who doesn't know what he's doing. He just has a dog and he's like trying to figure it out and he needs his club to coach him every single time he goes there." And I'm like, "No, I've put in a lot of work, guys. I've done a lot of learning and recognizing like where I've gone wrong and how I want to, do better in the future. I've got a very creative mind when it comes to this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, like in the future, I really want to open up my own business. I feel like I might start working for someone just due to the area I'm in for a while. But after a while, I think I want to, branch out and do my own thing and, kind of figure out like a niche. Because I see all these behavior mod people, and I'm so impressed with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really inspiring. Like I find it so fascinating. And here I am like, oh well, I can curb behaviors if we can stop them before they start. But ask me how to do counter conditioning, and I'm not really sure right now.
Yeah. It's funny if you
That's
if
where
you
I'm
hear
at.
any whining in the background. I'm actually at a B mod situation right now. It's an interesting one actually. It's I'm staying the night over here, right? Getting paid to spend the night.
Okay.
The owner themselves, they broke their hip, so they've been in rehab for about a week and a half now, and they have like one more week left. They haven't been home, right? So her daughter and grandkids come over and pet sit throughout the day. However, one of their dogs over here has zero impulse control, and it's not a bite risk or anything, but absolutely a tackle and jump risk. And with somebody that has a broken hip, that's dangerous, right?
Oh,
And
yeah, for sure.
so right now, what we've been doing for a few days now is working on a lot of impulse control downstays to learn to decompress when people come over. And it's been, I mean, I've been getting texts from their family as well as the owner here and there saying like when people come over to take care of the dogs, they're definitely seeing a big difference already. So
Right.
right now with the impulse control, Charlie over here, Charlie will. Be whining once in a while because he wants to get up and like come say hi and stuff like that. But yeah, so
Okay.
anyway, so Charlie, yeah, he's whining and stuff, but the owner broke her hip, and she hasn't been here in like a week and a half, and the grandkids and daughter is coming over here, pet sitting through the days and stuff, but they've been telling me through text because I'm connected to the whole family at this point, and they've been texting me saying his behavior is getting so much better. So right now we are working on impulse control. So he's laying in a downstage, just chilling, just hanging out about 5 feet from me, and it's nighttime. He can relax, but he'll whine once in a while because he wants to get up and come say hi. But I'm busy right now, and a big problem that a lot of owners do this is like Why can't you tell your dog to leave you alone for a second? Every time they want attention and they demand attention, you always give it to them. Can't you just tell your dog to go somewhere? Like, isn't
Yeah,
that's completely
true.
okay to do, right?
Yeah.
And when we don't
You know,
do
I
that,
like
that's
that
we
some
end up with
behavior
issues like
laws
this.
is just as simple as that.
Say again?
I say I like how some BMOD is just as simple as that. Like just some impulse control. Like
Yeah.
yeah, go somewhere, man. I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah, I have had an entire session before where all I did was sat on my phone, dicked around for an hour, standing outside of a fence.
Yeah.
That's all I did because it was what it was is this dog, is barrier aggressive. And
Right.
every single person that walks their dog that goes by, the dog is bark, 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 lunge, lunge, lunge. And then as they just keep walking their dog by, doing their own thing, minding their own damn business, the dog in their head's like, yeah, I just did that. I made you leave, which is,
Right.
reinforcing that behavior.
Self-reinforcing. Yeah.
And so all I did was like, you're not gonna win. I just had to outlast this dog, and eventually the dog's like, I'm bored. This is not working. Turn around and walked away. I'm like, perfect, awesome. You lost, I win. Like, you
Now
know.
it's starting a new streak.
And now something that was reinforcing is no it stops being reinforcing. Welcome to the extinction cycle, right?
That's just,
So So I had a question before we continue on because this can flow in any direction. I don't have to have a
I
strict
have
guideline.
yeah, I wrote a lot of things out for
Yeah,
you
dude.
actually. Well,
Absolutely.
yeah.
We can get into it. But you said that you were watching a lot of Garrett Wing. You were there with Garrett, right?
I was a video editor, so like I did it remotely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that Garrett gets a hell of a lot of flack, right? There's a lot of hate.
Yeah, no, for sure.
A lot of
I
hate.
feel like I'm gonna get in trouble when I wear his merch.
No, you're fine. You're fine. People are gonna get mad at me when people have gotten mad at me for certain opinions. For instance, I don't hate Dog Daddy, right? I don't hate Dog Daddy. I honestly don't think he's doing really anything wrong. I actually have been on TikTok live with Augusto de Oliveira, Dog Daddy, for 2 hours before, right? Me and him talking, right? And me deep diving a lot of stuff that people have confused because I want to know more about it too. All we're seeing is like 30-second videos and making assumptions, right?
Yeah,
And on top of that, if you ever look at his editing, he always speeds up the video a little bit so that way the reactions of the dogs thrashing around looks a lot more intense. Pretty good marketing. However, what he explained, and there's so much validity to this. What he explained to me is that he is working with dogs that are out of control, right? Dogs that are, one second. Dogs that are out of control. He's working with owners that can't handle their dogs, and their dogs are extreme, behavioral cases. And
right.
he could work 100 or 200 dogs a year all the way through. Give me just a second. Let me call you right back. My wife is calling me.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. I should have no more interruptions. I can't believe, like, I'm free for a while working with these dogs, nothing on my phone. Right when we start talking, my phone's blowing up. It's like, guys, it's 9:30. Leave me alone.
No worries.
Anyway, so what I was saying about Dog Daddy, right? He told
Yeah.
me, and this was all live. I had hundreds of people listening in, right? Because everybody expected me to rip Dog Daddy a new one, right? If you've ever
Right.
seen me on lives where I'm actually getting really scientific with shit, I have ripped people new ones when it comes to like dog training and learning theory, right?
For
And
sure.
and they were expecting that, and I'm like, no, 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 because I know how it's going to work. He gets so much hate from people. The moment that I try to make him look bad on purpose is the moment he blocks me. I never get to talk to this guy again, right?
Yeah.
So I need to really be, like silver tongue basically and try to work around things. But I also want to do it in a very non-biased way because I only see what I see online, right? The things that get
Yeah.
views. And same way with people when they see my contact and they make assumptions. And so when I was asking him, yeah, he said I could train all the way through a couple hundred dogs a year. He's like, but the thing is, all these dogs, there's zero control. The owners have zero control. It's ruining the owners' lives. And all I'm doing is getting the dogs under control. I give the dogs back to the owners after they're under control. to where they can be managed a bit by the owners. And then I tell the owners to go and immediately get a dog trainer that specializes in behavioral cases. So that way they can continue to work the dog from there now that they can actually work with the dog.
Good.
Right?
Yeah.
And so his thing is, if all these dogs could be potential euthanasia cases because they could bite the wrong person, right? So,
Right.
or attack the wrong dog. And so with that said, in his mind, I can be a lot more compulsive to make these dogs be able to be handled by other trainers and save thousands of dogs' lives per year, or I could just save a couple hundred per year and work the dogs all the way through.
You know what? That's actually really fascinating now that you bring that up.
Yeah, yeah, and when people that don't work with these dogs, what they get wrong, especially like you'll see it with my content too, where people start hating on some things, is usually the dogs where I have to handle these dogs and just, we need to solve this problem and get you under control right now by any means necessary, right?
Yep.
And then the dog, I'm just holding the leash and the dog is the one thrashing around. But because the dog's thrashing around and pulling my arms in every direction, it makes it look like I'm thrashing the dog around when that's not the case.
Right.
But nobody really knows this. Nobody sees this. So when I'm looking at Dog Daddy's content, like I'm seeing the same thing that I've physically had to witness myself many a times, right? And it's like there's only been like one or two things where I'm like, yeah, you could have done that a little better. You could have done that differently, right? But most of, I mean, not everybody's a perfect dog trainer. Hell, I'm not a perfect dog trainer, right? There's plenty of times that I have missed the mark on plenty of things and I could have done things better. Absolutely, right? And that I think that stands for all of us.
Take accountability for that makes us greater.
Mm-hmm.
If someone sits there and they say, "Oh, I did this perfectly every single time, every day of my life," it's like, I don't know if I really trust you. I trust the trainers. Like, yeah, I did that wrong. I gotta do better next time for myself and for the dogs.
Yeah.
And that's what matters.
And I feel the same thing probably applies to Garrett with American Standard, where a lot of people are looking at his content. They don't know what they're looking at. They're making assumptions, right?
They don't know the niche, man.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I do see about Garrett and it might just be the way the content is displayed, it feels sometimes, especially with younger dogs, that he kind of pushes them a little too hard. But again, I'm not really there to really see it, and I'm not handling these dogs, so I really don't know how hard these dogs need to be pushed. So who am I to make that assessment of them? You know?
I feel like Garrett trains similar. Do you know Justin Rigney? Of him at all?
Not off the top of my head. The name, I'm stuck with names and faces, just to let you know, as it takes a while.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, so from what I know about Garrett's program, like, he had this, like, tagline that he would use online, us balanced trainers use positive reinforcement better than positive reinforcement trainers. Because, you know, we'll load our clickers, or we'll teach them the luring, and we do the free shaping, and we know how to use successive approximation. But you look at any of these positive reinforcement trainers, and most of the time, it looks like they have lackluster skills, right? Mm-hmm. Just his words, not really mine. And so you recognize it in the training, and that's how he starts his programs. But, you know, board and trains, they might switch to tools quicker than really necessary just to get a finished product.
I don't really think there's a lot of times when you have enough experience, right? And this might be just straight bragging on my end, but like me with a lot of experience, Garrett Wing with a lot of experience, right? When you have a lot of experience with these kinds of dogs, you are very quickly able to make an assessment of a dog and know, we're going to go straight to this tool, right? Like, you can go a lot faster than a lot of people because you already have seen this thing 1,000 times, right? And there are always... Yeah, go ahead.
He was my first dog. We went, I got him from the shelter. I bought $300 worth of random dog shit. First time ever buying anything for a dog, literally no experience. I buy a harness, I buy my leash, I buy my flat collar. For about a month straight, I'm getting pulled around in this harness because I don't know jack shit yet. I started learning how to train German Shepherds. I started learning how to train Rottweilers on Google. And it's like, I had to go through every single tool under the sun, from harness to flat collar to martingale to slip leash to prong collar, you know, the PetSmart one, and then I was like, oh, I gotta buy a Herm Springer, and then, you know, then it set me straight, and then after my dog was under control, I'm like, oh my god, I can begin e-collar training, And
Mm-hmm.
I had a good relationship with that dog, and I was able to put all those pieces together.
Yeah.
But a real dog trainer would have gone, "Hey man, we're gonna get this under control right now."
Yeah.
That process took me
Well,
6 months.
here's the thing, right? Like, you're. I don't give a fuck who you are. You're not going to out counter condition a dog that wants to bite your fucking face off.
Fair
That's
enough.
not gonna happen. I don't care who you are. And when it comes to all this stuff like the positive reinforcement world, right? A problem is like, and I could do this too. Like, I could build relationships with these dogs, and I could spend the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, doing all of these other steps, all these scientific steps to prepare the dog, right? But the
Yeah.
thing is, at the end of the day, we still have to address the problem eventually. We still have to address the triggers eventually, right? And all that extra bullshit is just extra bullshit at that point, right? Until we address
I'm aware
these,
of the problem.
yeah, until we address the problems, because the problems, basically the problems, all of these problems, the triggers, everything that causes these outbursts, these reactive responses, those are speed bumps that are prohibiting
Yeah.
progress. And after we can actually tackle that, then we absolutely can do all the fun shit. We can now start building that relationship, right? But we have to tackle that problem first. And all the good, successful BMOD trainers, the ones that actually have really good results, are the ones that go head first into the problem.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah, I always think it's really interesting how all that stuff works, because I'm like, ooh, luring. Sport
well, I mean,
dogs.
the thing is I feel that, like, yes, it does take skill to be a positive reinforcement trainer. Absolutely, right? To really time out your rewards, right? How to build drives, how to build motivators, and so on, right? It takes a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of skill to do that, right? And so it does take a lot of experience and knowledge and know-how, right? But the thing is, it's not rocket science to try to increase a behavior, right? To teach a dog a new
Yeah.
behavior is not rocket science, right? Now,
Yeah. Right.
now decreasing behaviors change the emotional states of dogs that are terrified and anxious and fucking reacting to the point that they are a danger to society and their owners. That's a whole different ball field,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Agree.
Anyway, so you said you had some questions and stuff. Did you have anything that you want to just throw out there? Any questions and stuff, or we can just keep going on this however you want to.
Okay. We'll see if I have a juicy one to start off for you. Okay, what's your least favorite client dog breed? And are they very common?
My least favorite client dog breed. Okay, so I have two answers for this, right?
Okay.
My least favorite client dog breed, the first one is gonna be bull type terriers, right? Pit bulls, Amstaffs, and so on. Bull type breeds. And the reason why that's my least favorite is not that I don't like working with them. It's because most of these fucking owners are like the pibble mommy and daddies that think that the dogs are supposed to be the nicest dog in the world, and then a shocked Pikachu face whenever the dog mauls a kid. My dog wouldn't hurt a fly type shit, right? And then on top of that,
Right.
a lot of them don't want to put in the work. Like, they just
Yeah.
don't. They think that their dog is like God's gift to the world, and their dog is super special, and it's really not. And it
Yeah.
annoys the piss out of me. Right. So
That's fair.
that's the owner aspect is the reason why that breed. But if we're actually talking about like breeds in general, like the ones I just don't like working with, I I'm gonna say it's gonna be year by year. The breed's gonna change, but it's whatever is the most in-demand popular breed that year, because they're gonna be backyard bred, poorly bred out the wazoo with a lot of fucking behavioral issues because of how poorly bred they are.
You know what? That makes sense.
So that's gonna change year by year with that. You know, I don't mind working with pretty much any dog and stuff, but I don't really have a particular breed that I just hate working with. I guess, like, I mean, you could say, like, Chihuahua because they're all nervy fucking messes these days.
Oh, yeah.
But,
The people I'm friends with always talk about how much they hate the Corsos around here.
yeah, I mean, I love working with the Corsos, but then again, the Corso clients that I get, I have, like, my Corso clients are, like, NFL players and stuff, so they get them from really good breeders.
Oh, see, that's so much better than the Corsos they probably get down here.
Yeah, so I lucked out on that, with the Corso thing.
Hey, what, you're over in Florida, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. I work with some of the Jacksonville Jaguars players, NFL players. So, which I think is funny sometimes. Like I don't really like football. I don't watch it, and so like when it comes to these NFL players, I don't like worship them or anything. So it's funny. I have friends that have seasons passes, to go see the Jags. And they always come to me and they're like, "Oh, I got the season's passes. I get to go see the Jags, yada yada." I'm like, "That's cool." I was in their house last week getting humped by their Corso for 45 minutes straight.
Nice.
Like, it was just pretty funny. It's one of those like little bragging rights I get to throw in certain friends' faces.
Right. No, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it is. But I'm trying to think. Like, I think I said like 2 weeks ago there was a specific dog breed where I just was like, I hate this breed, right?
Oh yeah.
You know what? No, I actually have it. I got it. Any day of the week. Yes, golden retrievers.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Why?
Because they do not know any strangers. That is specifically why. They like of course we can have reactive golden retrievers and stuff, but most of the golden retrievers I'm working with are golden retrievers that have like zero leash etiquette, zero impulse control, jumpy, right? And a big reason why is because they want to be friends with every dog and every person in the world, and their owners and the owners' partners and kids and stuff just allow it to happen. Yeah, and I mean that's why they got the dog, is because the dog just wants to be friends with everybody. So the dog's friends with everybody, and now the dog's head's on a swivel on a leash, pulling in every direction. Honestly, like, they are difficult to work with because of how they are and how they're raised. So it's kind of twofold there.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
But that's the biggest one. I mean, most of them that I'm working with, they're all going to have the exact same personality, and I get bored if it's the same thing over and over again. So
he doesn't like the golden retrievers. You got to better watch out. You got to put it on the banned breeds list for his company. Careful, get in while you still can.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. The only dog I had as a kid, I didn't even live with my dad, but my dad had a golden retriever. And when he was like 7 years old, he had to be put down because he bit 2 children. So, fun little golden retriever story for you guys.
Yeah.
Be careful out there because they aren't all friendly.
Yeah, no, they're not. They're actually, if I remember, last time I checked, they're on the top 10 list for dogs that will bite you.
That's really interesting, actually.
Well, it makes sense, right? Popular breeds, more people have them. The more people have them, the more likely you're going to get bit by one of them, right? It's kind of like there's more shark attacks happening. Well, yeah, because more people are going into the ocean.
Yeah, I see that.
It's the same difference. But as far as favorite breeds, though, I like Spitz breeds. So, Huskies, Malamutes, Akitas, things like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Spitz breeds are some of my favorite to work with. Dutch Shepherds, and then curs, like the blackmouth cur, Catahoula leopard dogs, things like that. I really like dogs that have a very strong independent nature, which makes them seem more stubborn, right?
Yeah.
But the reason why I love those types of dogs is because once you figure out what motivates them and how to work them, they are badass dogs. They really are. And then the Dutch Shepherd is a lot more eager, but they are so snappy when it comes to like doing commands, and I fucking love it.
Yeah. Do you think you'd get one day?
I would love to get a Dutchie, but my wife, next dog we're getting, my wife wants a melanistic German Shepherd.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be her dog?
Yeah, she wants it to be her dog, but every time we get a dog, it ends up being mine.
Better lay down the foundation rules.
Right. I told her with this next one is she has to be the one to train the dog. It's not me. I'll help her, but it has to be her.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So, my next question is, what is your favorite type of behavior modification? Like when it comes down to the type of problem the dog is having and the solution you find for it.
Again, two answers for this. High levels of non-aggressive fear and anxiety. And the reason why I like that so much is because they tend to be the hardest cases to work, right? It takes a lot of thinking outside of the box. Hell, I had 2 beagles that were terrified of the world, everything, even going outside. They wouldn't do it, right? And so we started, I did a very long process of them being okay with me first, because I can't do anything if they're terrified of me, especially if we're trying to work through fear, right? And eventually we worked through that. Then we worked on, getting outdoors and just existing, a lot of exposure therapy type stuff. And it still wasn't working and stuff. And it didn't matter how many times I gave them rewards. They were still terrified of the environments. And I'm like, what the fuck do I do? And as I was thinking one day, I literally just pulled up in their driveway and it clicked. I'm like, all right, in order for me to get a dog to like me, I give them food or other treats, rewards, whatever it is. I get them to like me in certain ways by giving them resources. How can I get the environment to give them resources? So I got what was their favorite treats was it was rabbit jerky. And I broke up a bunch of it. I walked down the sidewalk, and every 5 feet, I threw some rabbit jerky down on the sidewalk, and I did it for like a block. And then I took them outside and started taking them on a walk around the block. And of course, they're turning around, trying to run back inside, pull inside, and stuff like that. And then soon enough, their beagle noses started going. They're like, ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. By the time we were done with that walk around the block, they were so happy to be outside looking for more fucking treats. The environment was now rewarding them, right? And it was just me trying to think outside of the box of what do I have to do to speak to these dogs at their level, right? And it was that simple, but in the grand scheme of things, like trainers understanding dogs, there's no real guidebook on every single situation and every dog and how to get through things, because some things you just gotta fucking just like that, just out of the blue, just be like, maybe I'll try this, maybe this will work. Throwing shit at the fucking window and seeing if it sticks, right? And so that's one of my favorites to do because it's so difficult, right? And I like a challenge. The second one is I really enjoy working dogs that have a superstitious association, and it doesn't matter if it's fear, anxiety, or if it's straight up aggression, like reactive aggression. I enjoy those cases because they are so fast to fix. And I really truly mean fix 100%. And it all it is straight flooding. That is it. It's basically when you have a dog, a superstitious association is literally what it is. They created an association that has no basis at all in reality. Right? Yeah. And so, like, a dog that is terrified of cars because it's only gone on 3 car rides, and each one and went to the vet or something, right? Or a dog's afraid of people with hats on because it looked at somebody with a hat on one day and a trash can lid slammed, and now it's terrified, right? All I have to do is just, flood you enough times to where you realize that thing that you're terrified of actually doesn't do anything scary. Like that is it. And here's some treats. Right? And usually, like, a lot of times I can solve those cases in an hour. That's it, an hour. Like, I've had dogs, like, I have videos that show it where like a German Shepherd, for instance, terrified of car rides because the 3 times it's 11 months old, only been on 3 car rides, and 2 of which was to the vet. Right? Yeah. Terrified of
really
cars.
Interesting.
And so,
how do you differentiate that between a like superstitious case and like a behavioral case or anxiety case.
All right, so the biggest way is going to be through not just the assessment process. Actually, yes, the assessment process, but assessment process is not just for the dogs. It's also assessing the environment as well as questioning the owner. And the more you do this, the more you know how to talk to the owners and get the right information out of them. And so, dogs afraid of cars. All right. How many like how old's your dog? 11 months. Okay, cool. It's in the fear period and stuff. We can understand that and everything. The fear period is just maturity, right? Things in their bodies,
Yep.
chemicals are changing, right? But even so, through that, this is just ridiculous how afraid this dog is of cars, right? Won't even go near one. Like uses all of its force to pull away from one. Just not, and this owner's older. I'm like, okay, like, do you ever take this dog on a car ride? No, not really. I'm like, okay, where have you gone? Like, we've gone to the vet a couple times. How many car rides has the dog been on? 3? Okay, well, a couple times to the vet, and you've only been on a couple car rides. Kind of makes sense why the dog's afraid of cars. Okay, cool. The dog's going to just have to deal with being in a car. And once we can get the dog to deal with being in a car and realize that it has to get in a car no matter what, like, it's going to happen, then now we can get the dog in a car. And now what you need to do is once the dog is in the car, you need to take the dog fun places.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
And so what she did, it was very cool. An hour goes by, and we got the dog to be able to get in the car on its own with very, very little pressure at this point because the dog realized it's going to happen no matter what. And we flooded the dog enough to around the cars, walking around them, sitting there. I had the car door open. I was sitting there and just slowly reeled the dog closer and closer, made the dog just deal with it. Right, be comfortable being uncomfortable, and eventually, with some leash pressure, some negative reinforcement pressure, the dog, to turn the pressure off, had to move forward, which was into the car. After we got in the car, gave the dog some hot dog, and so on, right, and did that a few times, and then we just made sure that the owner could do it themselves because this dog's too strong for the owner. Can you do it yourself without me here, right? So we did a couple rotations of this dog doing it themselves. And now that I feel very secure that the owner can do it, now what do you want to do with this dog? I want to take the dog to the beach. Great, the dog will love that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. So I go back 3 months later. We only had one session, one hour session. 3 months later, I call her. I go back to do a follow-up just to see. And I have it all on record. It's all recorded. And the owner was ecstatic. The dog, right when she picks up her keys or says car or anything, the dog gets excited, runs to the car, jumps in it and stuff. She's been taking the dog to the beach 3 times a week ever since.
That's amazing.
It changes the fucking life of the owner and the dog. Now they can do shit together. They can bond. The dog's perfectly content with cars. Oh, you shouldn't float a dog. You're just shutting the dog down. Well, I don't fucking care if I'm shutting the dog down. I do not care because we have to get over these speed bumps so that way we can grow a new relationship.
Yeah, you gotta give the dog a chance to see what the alternative looks like.
Yeah, that is really what it is.
If that dog stayed afraid of cars, it would have never been able to experience the beach.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is the biggest aspect, right? Like these BMOD cases, right? The more severe ones or extreme ones, like you said it perfectly. You are giving the dog an opportunity to see the other side, right? If we always just back up every time the dog is getting over threshold, now let's get away from the trigger or let's back up ourselves or whatever, that's doing nothing. Meeting it head on, like we were just talking about a little bit ago, meeting it head on, dealing with the issue, gets rid of the speed bumps, now allows us to build a new relationship and new associations, changes everything. And now that and just like that, now we can go to the beach 3 times a week. Great, awesome. Right. That's great. I love it.
Show the dog very clearly what the example should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like people make that's so simple. I feel like a lot of the time people don't know what tools they can use to set themselves up for success, and I don't mean like physical like dog training tools, but I just mean like common sense as a tool.
Yeah. Common sense is a tool. Like, let's say we're talking about rewards, right? Everybody always thinks when you're training a dog, you have to use treats or toys or physical affection or praise, things like that as rewards. Like, you know how many things in our environment are rewarding to a dog that we can capitalize on? Like teaching loose leash walking, right?
I was using intrinsic rewards before I knew what intrinsic rewards were called.
Yeah. I mean, you're using common sense, right? So when I'm teaching a dog loose leash walking, I rarely ever have to pull out a treat.
Nice.
Rarely ever have to pull out a treat because the walk itself is rewarding as hell to the dog. And so
Yep.
when the dog wants to go in one direction, I pop around and do a 180 and go the opposite direction and do it again and do some back and forth stop and goes and stuff. And the dog's pulling, I stop, the dog backs up, we get to continue to walk. Guess what? Continuing the walk is reinforcing. The back and forth and stuff is positive punishment followed by negative reinforcement, followed by a positive reinforcement, all within a second and a half.
Yeah.
So no, it's teaching these dogs based, with environmental rewards, right?
Exactly. I feel like people forget. People forget how. No, people don't even know. I'm not even going to say forget. People don't know. People don't recognize it, and so they see something that they just think looks wrong for half a second.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, people think a dog whining is the end of the world.
No.
Guys, we can sit here and we can explain all these different micro behaviors about dogs all day, or we can expect the rest of the world to get with it.
Yeah. You know how many times I have to tell owners, when we're working behavior, right? And now the dog is not being reactive at the end of the leash, but they're sitting there looking at the trigger and they're whining. And the owner's trying to correct them for that. I'm like, stop. Do not correct the dog for whining in this moment, because all they're doing is telling you that I'm trying really hard, but this is really hard.
Yeah,
right?
This is really difficult.
Let them whine. Let them whine. Whining's fine right now. Eventually they'll get over the whining the more they're exposed to this stuff.
Yep. Literally today, I was out with my fiance. We were outside playing badminton, and we have our dog outside, and I'm like, I'm going to use this, and we can play with him, and if he grabs the badminton, it's really not a big deal. I'm just going to say out, and it's more out training. And then after a while, my fiance was like, okay, I want him on place for a bit so we can just play. And it's like, okay, he stays there. He doesn't get off. I don't need to correct him for getting off. He doesn't get off.
Yeah.
However, he is whining. He's like, hey, I want to come play again. Let me come play. And it's it's annoying, but he's not leaving. He's not getting up. He's not stealing our little badminton ball again. It's exactly what I asked of him. And people sometimes would want more. I want the dog to shut up too. And so they turn up the e-collar because they know the dog has the e-collar on. It's no, you're making a mistake.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm going to go down a very quick list for you, and you can jump in whenever you want and have commentary or get me to shut up for whatever reason. That's fine.
Right.
But if you let me keep going, I'm just going to keep rambling, okay? Just forewarning.
Okay.
All right. My list of things that I see owners doing wrong all the fucking time. All the time, right? Correcting a dog for every single thing, right?
Yep.
Everything. Always telling the dog no, leave it all the damn time. It's let your dog be a fucking dog sometimes. Who cares that the dog is over there at the bird feeder looking up? Who cares? Is your dog doing anything wrong? Let the dog look. I had to get on my own daughter the other day because, she forgot to put the e-collars on the dog, took him out to our field. And I'm sitting inside, and I'll just hear the vibrate go off and go off and go off, and then the beep sound go off and go off. I go outside, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
She knows better. She's almost 15. We've worked together with our dog. She knows what to expect and stuff. She also knows that the neighbors' dogs are I'm working, actually, they're my clients now, but their two dogs are highly barrier reactive, and if they can't get to the source, they redirect and fight each other. Right, it's bad. It's gotten real bad. Your dog has to be 10 feet away from the fence before they start getting barrier reactive, right? Our dogs were 1,000 feet away. I literally mean, I'm not exaggerating, literally mean 1,000 feet away from this fence. So we're on 5 acres. And my dog was just sitting there looking at the fence. And that's what my daughter said. He was looking at the fence over there and their dogs are out. I'm like, he was looking. He did nothing wrong, right? Sometimes let your dogs make choices. Let your dogs make choices, and if they do something stupid, then correct them. If they don't, then they don't, and they just made a better choice, reward for it. Right?
Exactly.
Let them make choices. You don't have to constantly be helicopter parenting your fucking dog. Right? That's one thing. That's one of my lists.
What's the next one? Yeah, keep going on the list. No, I like the list. because I agree. I relate.
The
Listen, I
second
see.
one,
Like I,
the second
yeah,
one in the opposite direction is not ever telling your dog no.
yep.
It's okay to say no to your dog. It's okay to tell your dog to stop doing something stupid. Like, tell your dog no, right? Like, let's go back to the first part. Not all the fucking time, but it's okay to tell your dog no.
Right.
You know, that's another one I see wrong, right? Another one is, especially with leashes, is allowing your
Constant
dogs.
tension.
Say again.
Constant tension.
Yes, constant
Oh,
tension. And
the constant.
if not constant tension, it's constantly tugging at the leash, like constantly. It's not even not hard leash pops, but little tiny tugs, right? Constantly tugs, right? Thinking that you're telling your dog something. It's like, no, let your dog fucking walk, right? If your dog's pulling your arm off, then yes, do something about it. But let your dog fucking walk. Your dog doesn't have to be in a perfect hill with like its head looking straight up into your fucking eyes. It doesn't have to. If your dog is just walking a little in front of you, behind you, out to the right or left a little bit, and it's walking fine, you don't have to fucking correct your dog.
Yeah.
Again, that goes back to my first point, overcorrecting your dog.
Yep.
You know, but yeah, the
Yeah.
constant tension though thing is a bad thing. Or people think that their dog, when it comes to socialization, they need to meet every dog and every person in sight. That is the worst thing you can do. Your dog doesn't need to have friends, and I promise you, you much rather have a couple really good friends than 1,000 shitty friends, right?
Right.
And so when you are, let's say, just walking your dog and PetSmart or on a leash in the park or whatever, and every single dog that comes up, you let your dog come and meet them, or every person that comes up that wants to pet your dog, you let it happen. What you're doing is you're teaching your dog to seek out other dogs and other people for attention, right? To get that dopamine rush, right? Like to get all that good shit, right? The chemicals,
Yeah.
right? The feel good chemicals, and now your dog's head's going to be on a swivel, and it's going to be pulling in every direction, and it's making your life a lot harder to train the dog to stop fucking pulling.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't need to meet everybody. And most of the time, the people that are going to meet your dog aren't going to meet your dog appropriately.
Right. Yeah. Real quick, how long have you been training dogs, unprofessionally and then also professionally?
So, my first dog I got myself, not being a professional, it was a miniature pincer mix. And I was 19, living in my own apartment, and my friend basically brought me a little puppy, like probably like 7 weeks old tops, right? And I was like, I don't know what to fucking do with this, but now it's mine, I guess, right? Right. That was my first dog, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I did things poorly all the time. I was also partying a lot and stuff. There was times that like I had this dog. I don't know how I did it at the time. Like looking back, I still don't know how I did it. I think it was just like my dog probably like had a very, very like bad like disorder where God, words, I can't words tonight. What is the disorder again where the dog is like littermate but with people? Littermate syndrome but with people. I can't remember the fucking term for it. Anyway,
Separation anxiety?
yeah, separation anxiety, but not just that. It's not just separation anxiety. It's separation anxiety. On top of that, it's something else where you have to have that other person around to exist, right?
Gotcha.
So
Codependency.
there you go, codependency. So I think we accidentally created a bunch of codependency in my dog with me. And so, like, even when I was partying and stuff, there was times, like, people go in and out of my apartment and the dog would slip out. And then, like, 3 hours later, I'm like, where's my dog? And it's just sitting at the door, just waiting for me to let it back in, right? It's not howling or anything. We did a lot. It was like my dog went everywhere with me. I could bring my dog to work. I could bring my dog to friends' houses. Anywhere I went, my dog went. It was like a thing. Everybody knew if Patrick showed up, his dog's coming too. And that was cool, right? So my dog had a lot of, like, exposure, you know, and a lot of environmental socialization and was around a lot of stressors all the time to where my dog was really mellow and chilled out with that stuff. Still a hyper little fuck, but still mellow when it comes to like different stressors in life. But I think the codependency part of it allowed my dog to just be off leash trained without me really training my dog for off leash because she didn't care about anything else but me. That was beneficial. But I would say like I wasn't even a trainer at that point. So what it was and in 2020, it was 2013. What I was doing for a career was I was working with other small businesses that were failing, and I was being hired on in senior management in some capacity to basically clean house, reshape their business, and make them profitable, right? And I found myself getting hired into the pet care sector,
Okay.
and so, like grooming salons, dog training businesses, things like that. And for me on the operation sides of things, I need to kind of know how you do the things in order for me to fix why you guys are failing, right? There's a puzzle piece I'm missing here, and it's my experience and understanding of this world, right? And so
Yeah.
that's when I started doing like mentorships with grooming and training and different aspects of dog stuff, right? And then I kind of like fell in love with that shit. And like even when I was doing the shit for a career on the side, I was still training dogs, as like a little side gig. And then
Yep.
and then eventually like I said, fuck it, I want to know more. I want to know more. And I just started tunnel visioning in and started reading a lot of studies, started reading a lot of books, started getting a lot of different mentorships and things like that. Until like 2023 is when I opened my business. And at that point,
Yeah.
I have enough upper level management in different capacities in business so that any business I start, I know it will be successful. Now it's how skilled am I, right? With what I'm
Right.
doing, right? And it showed for itself. Since 2023, I've won 4 awards for best in business for pet services. I've been for 2 years in a row. I've been the top 3 pet services in Jacksonville, Florida. The only people competing with me for that top 3 space is the Humane Society of Jacksonville, which is the largest pet shelter in Florida. And then the other one is No More Homeless Pets, which is a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. And so me with them in the top 3 slot in the city is pretty fucking good. I get reached out by city counselors, reach out to me to teach seminars on learning theory and stuff. I work with PhDs in psychology where we're doing like virtual seminars and stuff on the dog side of things and so on.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I think all those years of me just diving really headfirst into it and then not stop learning, I think that's really where it came down to where my knowledge point is in my experience. And then I just a lot of mentorship. But the book knowledge, I think you only need so much book knowledge, honestly, to understand it. But if you really want to talk on a scientific level to other industry like professionals, then it is good to understand what you're talking about with the book knowledge. But training the dogs, experience goes a lot further than actually knowing what a definition for a certain term is.
Yeah. I find it really fascinating now that I've like gone all the theory down in my brain to go and read old dog training books, say from like the 1920s, before they even knew what Pavlovian conditioning meant.
Yeah.
Because I was reading this one book, and I'll have to find the title of it and like maybe message it to you later. But they have these like commandments for dog training on like how to get these simple rules to follow, and it's like, this is literally the exact same as what we all do today. They just had no idea it was.
They didn't have definitions yet.
They had no idea it was called operant conditioning. They're like, if you don't want the dog to do it, just tell him no real fucking smoothly. Be nice to the dog, but tell him no.
But
give him a little piece of meat.
Here's the funny thing, though, right? Like, when it comes to working in this industry, you need to have a lot of shoulder-to-shoulder peers and other people you can consider mentors that have been doing this longer with more experience than you, right? And the reason why is there's a lot of people, green trainers, baby trainers, right, that 50, 100 dogs, 200 dogs, 500 dogs in, like they're still baby trainers, right? Like they've trained a lot of dogs, but they think a lot of times, like this is where Dunning-Kruger effect comes in. They think they have it. This is the trainers that have the egos, like hardcore ego. And all trainers, all of us have egos, but I'm talking about these ones that think they have seen everything and can train any dog, right? And then they get humbled eventually. They get humbled by a dog, right? It happens. And it's happened to me, and it will happen again and again. Now, even me, like thousands of dogs. I've worked with thousands of dogs. And even thousands of dogs later, every so often there's a dog where I'm like, this is a new thing I haven't seen before. Let me
I'm
call
sure even with
somebody.
those beagles you felt like that. I'm sure even with those beagles you felt like that.
Yeah, with the beagles, it was just like, I tried everything under the sun. I'm like, what the fuck do I do here? I called many people, and everybody's like, I don't fucking know, dude. You've done everything I would have done. And I'm like, I don't know what else to do here, right? And then it clicked.
He figured it out.
Yeah, then it clicked, right? But yeah, eventually, it doesn't matter how many dogs you train, you will eventually find something new. The dog behavior.
You can have all the theory in the world,
yeah,
but do you have the creativity to problem solve?
Yes, and that's a big one. And the thing is like you were talking about, like, you know, you've gotten the theory down, right? But even after we have the theory down, the amount of nuances and complexities when it comes to dog behavior, it there's so much more under the surface there is than just the theory. This is why, like, dog training is not just a science, but it's also an art form.
Yes, I say that. I say that to everyone, man.
You know?
I completely agree.
Yeah, so like, the hardest part of me when I do a lot of social media stuff, especially when I do like lives, YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram lives, is unless I'm talking with a dog trainer at the same like scientific understanding capacity as me, which is hard to find. Especially, I don't know many dog trainers that are going to spend, 10 hours a day training dogs, and then the next 4 to 5 hours read peer review research studies and books. like most of them want to have another, and do it for years. Like I don't know many people like that, but there are some, and a lot of times I have a hard time sometimes, like, just constantly having the same conversation, and it's always surface level. It really is. And I just like, let's get under that surface. Let's go further. And it's tough sometimes trying to talk to people outside of that. I mean, that's why I have this podcast, honestly, is because it's the one time I get to talk to somebody about dogs, and we get to deep dive shit. Sometimes we stick to the one little topic for the entire thing, because there's just so much to talk about that one little topic, right? So,
yeah, like for me, I've been really blessed with where I moved in the last year. Do you know of Tar Heel Canine, like the police dog school?
I fucking love Tar Heel Canine. Anytime anybody tells me like I want to be a behavior modification specialist, or work police dogs or military dogs or bite dogs or anything like that, I tell them Tar Heel Canine. Go to Tar Heel Canine.
I got to tell you this. So my current roommate went there for 6 months, and then started working with the place where I do my obedience club with my dog.
Okay.
And so now him and I are roommates, and it's amazing because we are the same age and we have the same interests, and he's training in PSA and I'm training in IGP. And so living together, like him and I literally just will sit there and we'll be talking about theory, or we'll be training our dogs together, or we'll be like fantasizing about different dog training problems. Like I saw this question on Facebook the other day, where in a aggressive dog training group, someone was like, what do I do if my working line German Shepherd growls at me while I'm taking his collar off? And I'm like, dude, what would you do with your specific dog, who is kind of an asshole like this, if he did that to you? And we got to have a good conversation about it and talk about different little nuanced pieces and how different things would apply. And it's so nice to have someone in your life who is at a higher level than you, who you can like learn from.
Absolutely.
So many different things.
Oh, absolutely.
So nice.
I have people all over the country. Actually, at this point, I have people all over the country that wants me to open up a sector of my business where they are. Come out there, work with them, start the business up, get clientele in, and let them work for me. Like, and it's wild. It's like I didn't realize that could be a thing for me, and it can be, and it's part of my goals in the future. But it's like, seeing all these people, whether it's online or in person, that's just appear, that you can just nerd the fuck out on dogs. Like it's a wonderful world. Yeah. Actually, sidetracking a little bit, talk to your roommate. I think it would be fun to meet you and your roommate one day to have another long conversation, a podcast episode type conversation, because I would love to kind of pick their brain a bit about their experience going to Tar Heel K9.
For sure, I'll have to ask him if he's into that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And pivoting from there, because we were talking about you kind of getting ready to basically franchise, right?
Well, it's technically it wouldn't be a franchise because we would still be running and the whole thing. Nobody else would own part of the business.
Okay.
But it will be kind of set up similarly to a franchise where we're in a bunch of different states, and the people there are basically running it, and I just check in and stuff. Yeah. It's a privately owned, medium-sized business. Like is what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, pivoting from there, what would you say is your favorite part of owning your dog training business?
Favorite part.
Bro laughs.
My favorite part of owning my dog training business, right, is dictating everything, right? I'm not gonna lie, like being able to know that if there's a client that's just a piece of shit, I can literally tell my client fuck off, like word for word, and I don't have to get written up for it. Right? Like I don't.
You know what? I like that.
If I don't want to work tomorrow, I don't have to work tomorrow and there's no repercussions. However, the caveat is there's no repercussions and it's really easy to slip into a very lazy mindset owning and running a business. But I mean, if you love what you do and you're motivated to do it, you're not going to ruin it for yourself like that, right? But yeah, I mean, just people not breathing over my shoulder all the fucking time with everything I do, right? Me dictating everything, me figuring out how I want things run. And I also, one big thing I like about it is I never set up a very solid business plan. I knew what I wanted to do. And then I kind of just let society around me, dictate kind of how I did things, right? I was doing some just like regular dog obedience training and leash training and things like that. And I mean, I do have a lot of experience, before this business in BMod. But then like what happened actually that got me into primarily working BMod up to date with the business is doing the grooming side of things, right? We started getting known very solidly to being able to work with behavioral cases for grooms that nobody else would take. And that's part of the niche that we have in grooming that, that we've capitalized on because we've cornered a market nobody's going to touch. And because of that, a lot of these grooming clients become training clients, right? And then and then that word of mouth spreads like wildfires. Like, oh, these guys are fucking fantastic at working our dogs. And
that's a really nice crossover. I like that.
Yeah. So it kind of just blended into it. Just getting phone calls once in a while and stuff like, hey, like, my dog can't go to a groomer anymore because every groomer, after 5 minutes, calls me and is like, pick up your dog. We can't work with your dog. It's like, I can work with your dog. Like, I'm a trainer and a groomer, and I work with training with hard dogs, right? Behavioral cases. Right. So that bleeds over into grooming. So while I'm grooming a dog that has behavioral cases, I'm also training the dog at the same time, right? Yeah. I'm using positive and negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and so on, right? Like I'm doing different things. I'm working classical conditioning at the same time, and then I'm also working cooperative care at the same time, and different things that I can do to get this dog to be able to understand that we're going to have to do these different things. I'm training the dog while doing the groom to make my life easier in the next groom, So,
nice.
Yeah, it just kind of bled into each other, and then, bam, here we are, shitload of fucking high-level behavioral cases, which is awesome.
Oh, yeah. I really like the idea of, like, the crossover. Like, that must feel great. You found the corner of the market, and like, look, I don't know. Do you think anyone's even gonna ever try to steal that from you in Jacksonville, Florida?
No, nobody's gonna try to take that from me. No groomer out here is an experienced enough trainer in BMod to groom those dogs, right? And most of the time people will pick a specific industry or part of the industry to stick in, right? Like, I'm a groomer, I own a grooming van, yada yada, right? I said fuck grooming vans too. Like, I'm not gonna spend $80,000 on a van, right? I'm just not. I don't want to, right? So like, when I started the business, I'm not gonna fucking lie, I started it with like $700 is how I started my business, and this includes all of the grooming stuff. right? And so like my first grooming table was a you're gonna laugh at this. So you know those like heavy duty plastic stackable tables that you can put in your sheds and stuff that you can put a bunch of shit on. I took two of those.
Yeah.
I took two of those because they came up to my waist, right? And then I drilled some holes in the side and I bolted hinges onto them, right? So that way I can just and then I put a I bolted in or glued in a yoga mat on top of it for traction for the dog's feet. And now I have something that I can fold up and take the legs off and throw in the trunk of my car.
Nice.
Right? That was my first grooming table because I didn't want to. I didn't know how the business was going to be, if the grooming side of it's going to even be successful, right? And I'm like,
Yep.
I don't want to spend all the money, dude. Like I bought my first professional like grooming clippers on Facebook Marketplace from a groomer that was just selling some used clippers for like $25.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, okay, cool. And then as I was making money on the grooming side of things, like it started off with a bunch of people that wanted nail trims, and then they're like, "Well, I want baths too." It's like, "Okay, I'll get baths too." "Oh, I want haircuts too and de-shedding service too." I can do that too, right? And then as we were making more money, I started upgrading equipment, and
Nice.
and I never put all my eggs in one basket either. I figured that would be the worst thing to do with business anyway. And so you can have a strictly dog training business, but most people that do dog training in different capacities. They do classes, group classes. They do board and trains, and they also do like drop off or come in like solo type dog lessons or classes, right, with a single person.
Yeah.
And so all their eggs are not in one basket, but they're strictly training dogs. I didn't want to do that. I wanted all my eggs to be in various baskets, so that way if something's not doing good, I can do something else. So I started off with dog grooming, and I set up to where I do in-home services. So I come into the house, I groom inside the house, and then I clean up and leave, right? So I don't have to buy a van, and I realize I'm the only person in Jacksonville, Florida that does in-home grooming, right? Which means now I monopolize the market, and there's a lot of people, unless for instance they're elderly, they can't really leave their houses and they have dogs, or the dog is elderly and really can't leave the house, right? And those were some of my first types of clients with this grooming until some people were just like, my dog just leaving the house is way too anxious, going to the vet or going to the groomer stuff, it's just way too much for my dog, so that's why we're calling you. And then I realized real quick, it's like all these dogs with behavioral issues are a lot more comfortable in their own environment. Right, and then I can also easily give them breaks and stuff to where they can go outside in their backyard that they feel comfortable in, right, and like cool them off a little bit with their getting over threshold, right? Like there's just so much benefit to it, and again, it bled into the B mod with the training. Now, as far as training goes, like grooming and training, we also offer dog walking, pet sitting. We did offer pet waste removal, poop pickup, but I just don't like doing it. There's a lot of money in it. I just don't like doing it. And then pet photography, right? Now, pet photography doesn't make a lot of money, but every so often somebody does want us to do pet photography, and my wife's a photographer, so she comes out and does that, which is fine. Dog walking, okay? When I'm dog walking, guess what? That can turn into leash training sessions, right?
Right.
Very quickly can turn into leash training sessions, and I want to get paid for different things. So if you get me to walk your dog for 15 minutes, of course I'm going to be working on leash training and stuff, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to lie, for my business savvy self, I'm not going to tell the owners all the things I did to get their dog to walk loosely on a leash. I'm just doing it for myself, and I already know the owners aren't going to handle the dog the same way, so the dog's still going to pull with the owners. And then eventually...
And if you really want to know, pay me for the transfer over classes.
Correct. Absolutely, because dog walking for me is less money. Yeah, it's less money for me to dog walk than it is to train a dog.
Right now.
Yeah.
See, this is great. You're fixing me.
Yeah, so yeah, every single thing I offer can bleed into itself, right? I can do dog training on a long hair type dog, and guess what? That dog can now become a grooming client too. Right? And a lot of times, like when we're working with these dogs are an intimate part of these families, right? And so a lot of times, like when you're working with dogs, whether it's just puppy obedience training, adult obedience training, behavior modification, sport training, whatever it is that you're doing, you end up growing a relationship with these owners at a different
Yeah.
level than a lot of industries grow relationships with people, right? And like to the point where it's like we have a hurricane come through, I'm out of power, and I have like 10 clients calling me saying, hey, you can come to sleep over at my house type situation.
Oh,
Right, you know, like we grow really good relationships. And so
that's awesome. That's great
because
to
we
hear,
grow
yeah.
relationships with the dogs and we grow relationships with the owners, that means the same dogs we train, we can groom. The same dogs we train and groom, when they go on vacation, we can pet sit. You know, like so it all bleeds into itself, and it's nice being able to say, like, you know, I don't have to have I mean, I have a lot of clients, trust me, a lot of clients. I think the last time I checked, my client list is like 500 plus for my client list.
Bro, keeps it busy.
Yeah, I've been real fucking busy, dude. But even with that, like, I don't have a lot of clients, like, constantly be booking like a lot of different clients, because the same client that's getting training is also going to get grooming this month, is also may go on vacation stuff. So the same client, I can, you know, make a lot of money and have a lot of my scheduling filled up just with one client alone for multiple different services,
Yep.
you know.
And for you, so with that, do you have a revolving amount of new customers coming in too every month, or
Oh, absolutely.
how? Okay.
Absolutely.
And do you think? Here, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this question. How many clients in a month stresses you out versus what is the like ideal amount?
It's not the amount of clients, it's more the amount of services.
Okay.
So the amount of services and stuff, depending on the service, right? Dog grooming can be anywhere between 1 and 4 hours, depending on what you're doing. Training sessions, usually an hour. And the 30 minutes or hour sessions. I don't like doing 15-minute sessions, and usually anything over an hour is just too much for the dog, right? So
Yeah.
so an hour tops for training sessions. Pet sitting can be anywhere 15 minutes, 30 minute or hour pet sits. Dog walking 15 minutes, 30 minutes or an hour dog walks, and so on, right? And since it's all in-home services, I also drive around the city and surrounding areas and stuff too, so that can take time. I also charge whenever I have to drive out of certain areas, like I charge like 50 cents a mile, like round trip type shit, right? So you live 10 miles away from me, I'm charging you $20 for me to come out. So if you want me to pet sit 3 times a day, $60 that day is just for me to travel to you, and that's going to pay for gas, my time, as well as wear and tear on my vehicle.
Yep.
Right, so I do charge for that. However, I'm also really good at routing. So when I'm setting up my schedule, I'm keeping track of like where I'm going for my first client, and I try to do a circular route. So I'm going to start here, go here, 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 and eventually by the end of it, I've already made a big circle. I'm close to my house, right? So
Okay.
I try to do that as best as possible. Sometimes it doesn't work out like that, but to me, it's more of when I start cutting it close, right? So,
Yeah.
and it's usually because of grooms, because grooms can be anywhere. Like, I could have a dog that I'm like, it's a de-shedding service, right? And it's like, okay, this shouldn't take me more than an hour to do for the whole service, but it ends up being like a 3-hour service. Now I'm behind on my schedule. And when I'm behind on my schedule, that's what stresses me out, because now I have all these other clients that I still got to get to. My day's going to be long, right?
Love it.
And I don't like that. A really good solid thing to do, though, is if you are running your own business, never tell a client that you're going to be there at 1 o'clock, right? Never tell your client you're going to be there at 3:45, right? That's when you scheduled them. Never do that. What you do is you set up like time estimates, and what I mean by that, like mine, I have early morning, afternoon. Oh, sorry, lunch.
You're a plumber doing your drop-in.
Yeah, lunch,
You're the Wi-Fi
afternoon,
guy
late
setting
afternoon,
up
eve.
services.
Yeah. So early morning, lunch, afternoon, late afternoon, evening, and night. Right. Those are the different like time frames that people can set up, and each one is like 3 hours. Right. So any time between these 3 hours, like let's say it's early morning, that's only for pet sitting, because I don't really like to leave my house until like 10 in the morning.
Yep.
So like early morning would be like 6 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., right? Somewhere in between that time, I'll show up, right?
I like that because it also can account for like driving.
Yeah, it
So
accounts for driving, traffic, it accounts for if you're running behind on something for whatever reason and stuff, and it gives me a lot of wiggle room to where if I finish a client early, I have that wiggle room to show up to the next client early too.
Right.
You know, so that,
I enjoy that.
Yeah, so that gives me a lot of wiggle room.
That's a nice tip, actually. I haven't heard that from anyone.
Well, I learned it the hard way. The first 4 months in business for me, like, you know, we skyrocketed when it came to clientele very quickly because of the type of stuff we were offering, and it was one of those things where I put my foot in my mouth with this shit. You know, I was telling people the exact times I would get there, and I started getting people like upset with me or us having to reschedule constantly because they had other plans, and their plans were like 2 hours from when I was supposed to show up, and it was just supposed to be an hour session at 1 o'clock. I'm going to be 2 hours late, and we're impeding on when they're supposed to leave, and they planned it out based on when I said I'd be there. It's like, oh, we got to change this. How do I do this, right? How do I change this? I'm like, well, I'll just be like an electrician. I'll be there on Wednesday the 16th, sometime between 9 a.m. and noon, right? Yeah. You know? And that gives me plenty of window. And once they say okay to that, they can't complain that I showed up at 11 o'clock. They can't complain that I showed up at 9:15 because I still showed up within that window that we agreed upon.
Right. No, that's really nice, actually, because I'm thinking about all the different like scenarios. Mm-hmm. Even my day job, that would save my ass, man. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, there's like a little 3-way gap, like, yeah.
No, and what's really cool about that also allows you a lot of wiggle room to do other things with your day, right? Like,
yeah, right. I go grocery shopping and then go see a client.
Correct, absolutely, right? That's what I did today. Like, I got done with the client. And then I'm like, we got to go grocery shopping. I'm going to go grocery shopping, bring the groceries home real quick, and then I'll go and head out to my next client from there, right? And that it was fine. Like, I had no problem. Like, there's some times where I'm like, I am exhausted from the first 3 clients. I got like 2 more to go. I'm ahead of schedule. I'm going to go to a gas station. I'm going to hang out with some AC on, and I'm going to go on TikTok for the next hour and just chill. You know, like...
like me would say, I'm going to go take a nap.
Right? Yeah, and you can. You absolutely can.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I wrote down on here as a question, what mistakes were most impactful on you as a dog trainer? Would you say that was one of your most impactful mistakes because it allowed you to create that ultimate
I would say as a
schedule,
business owner, that was very impactful as a business owner, right?
Okay.
I think the biggest impactful mistake as a business owner would be burnout.
Oh, yeah.
And so there was a time where I was working 15 hours days, and I worked like 62 days in a row before I took a day off. And then the day off, I was just scheduling people instead of working, like physically doing the stuff. And then I worked like another like 48 days in a row, 15-hour days. And then by the time I was done with it, I pretty much took like a 3 or 4 month break, like working like every other day, maybe 1 client a day, every other day, because I was just so burnt out. I just didn't want to get out of bed. And like that was like the mental health aspect of it was one of those things where it's like I gotta focus on myself too. My mental health is very important, and I can't do that because once I start doing that, that's when like I think I have one or 2 reviews where it talks about like scheduling got all funky and stuff, and then it's just they were upset about it. And that was during my burnout where it's like I didn't want to get out of bed, so I would constantly just like text people, be like, hey, I'm not feeling good, let's schedule for tomorrow. And the next day comes up, it's like, hey, I'm not feeling good, let's try Friday, and shit like that. And like that's not good for business. It's not.
No.
Right? So business-wise, that was the biggest impactful mistake, but being able to realize exactly what it was, how to recover, and then do it right. The next thing, though, as a dog trainer, the most impactful mistake as a dog, I've never had a dog have to go to an emergency vet or anything like that during training or grooming or anything like that, right? So
What a flex.
yeah, that is a flex, right? I've never had an injury on a dog before. Well, I wouldn't say I never had an injury. I had a dog one time run around a tree and then like broke a nail like pretty heavily. It didn't break break it up to the bone or anything, but it was definitely bleeding profusely. But luckily
Yeah.
enough, I'm also a groomer, so I went, got my quick stop, sanitized the fucking shit, and then I clipped the nail where it needed to, stopped the bleeding, and we were good to go from there, right? So luckily enough, I had all the equipment I needed to fix it, but
Yeah.
that wasn't something that I physically did. It was a root in the ground that a dog ran and got it caught on. So but me physically, I have not physically harmed a dog myself. And that's good. So that's not a mistake. I would say this is kind of 50-50 here, right? When it comes to mistake or not mistake, right?
Okay.
Posting everything on social media. Right?
You say posting everything?
Posting everything. And what I mean by that is that a long time ago, like, I realized one thing I hated about watching dog training content on YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that is how disingenuous people are about it, right? They might show a very high level reactive dog, and then they show like a little compilation of like really nice and pretty training, and then they show a completed dog, right? And I'm like, that is so disingenuous. Like, that doesn't show what happened. So what I started doing is I started showing the ugly side of dog training, the stuff that people don't want to see, the stuff that we actually have to do, right? And I think the benefit from that is there's a shitload of people now, like millions of people that have seen this stuff, that can now have a very better understanding that they're not failing their dogs because what they're doing like is not working because of XYZ. They don't have to be afraid to work in other methods. They don't have to be afraid to say, like, I had to harshly correct my dog. They don't have to be upset that they used an e-collar and their dog yelped. And so on. Like there's so many things that people don't want to see. But then it also helps out so many other people that see a trainer do like one little thing 3 times and this high level reactive dog is now fixed. It's like the people at home is like, I have a dog with the exact same behaviors for the exact same reason. I keep trying the thing that this trainer's doing for months now, and it's not doing anything. The dog's getting worse. Why?
And then it's
right?
the part that they skipped out of the video.
Yes, exactly, right. So I think it's very beneficial.
I heard a while back, actually.
Yeah, I think
someone was like, someone was like a dog trainer, and the client went home, and a couple months later, the client calls him, and they're like, "Hey, I'm still having this behavioral problem." And then the dog trainer goes to evaluate the dog again, and the owner's like, "Yeah, I never went up past 28 because during our sessions, you never went past 28, so I didn't know I could go past that. I thought I wasn't allowed to."
Yeah.
It's like, that is setting the dogs up for failure because
Absolutely.
we aren't saying, look, we can do all of these things. It is okay.
Well,
you need to be clear with the dog.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but that was probably also a very good learning experience for the trainer because a lot of us, like, when we're first starting out or even further into it and stuff, learning how to train the clients it's a skill in itself, and that's going to be the primary part of training. Like, my dog training shirt says dog trainer, training humans to speak dog. That's literally what my shirts say. And on the back it says treat dogs like dogs, and people get mad sometimes about it, but it's okay. But the biggest thing is, like, I'm sure that trainer right there learned a lot from that like, sorry owners that are listening to this, but y'all are stupid sometimes, and you just take things at face value, right? When an owner or when a trainer is just correcting at, for instance, a 28, right? They're also timing it perfectly. Right? They're timing it perfectly. They know exactly what it is, and sometimes they may have to crank it up or whatever, and then the trainer may have told the owners, like, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to give them a heavier correction sometimes, right? And that owner just thought, oh, 28 was a heavier correction, right? Especially you have all this content online, is like a working level with a knee collar, right? They're probably thinking, okay, we have a working level and 28 is the heavier correction. Like, that's probably what the owner was thinking, but now the trainer knows, like, I have to
working level of 28.
Yeah. So So now the trainer knows for future reference, when you're telling an owner, hey, you're going to have to give a heavier correction, you need to literally spell it out for them. Literally
Yes,
spell it out.
exactly what the Punisher would be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I also blame the owner too, because this also pisses me off. This does happen a lot to a lot of us, right? When we have to do follow-up sessions because the behavior has gotten worse again. A lot of times what happens is we do things ourselves as the trainers and try to teach the owners and stuff, right? And then when the owners try it themselves, it doesn't really work out the same way. They don't have the same handling skills or whatever it is, right? And so they kind of put it on the back burner, right? Instead, what they should be doing is they should be calling the fucking trainer immediately saying, hey, look, for the last like 3 or 4 days, I've been trying this. It's not working. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, can we have
Sooner than later.
yeah, can we talk through this or schedule a follow up real quick so that way I can make sure we don't fail on this? Like, that's up to the owner to do as well, right? They need to be reaching out when they realize that what they're doing is not working anymore, even though it worked with the trainer, right? How come the trainer, it worked with the trainer, but it's not working with me? Well, that's the problem, and you need to call the trainer. So don't wait 3 or 4 months when it's already so far. Like, I'm sorry, but for me to figure out what you did 4 months ago that could possibly have been the reason why the dog started digressing, you're not gonna be able to get me to remember or think back that far. I can barely fucking remember what I ate for fucking breakfast, let alone like what you were doing 3 months ago.
Yep. Yeah. Because I personally, with my own dogs, people with Cedar specifically, people be like, oh, well, you haven't solved reactivity, so why are you talking about all your shit on TikTok? And it's like, one, I post my stuff for me to learn from, thank you. But two, I have worked through reactivity with this specific German Shepherd. It just doesn't look like I have because I fixed it before it became explosive.
And that's a big thing. Puppy. That is a huge thing, what you said right there. Fixing it before... Exactly. Okay, so this is actually a really good topic that we could literally probably talk for hours on.
Yes, it literally is.
And so it's a mindset thing. A mindset, right?
Yep.
You have a dog trainer mindset. I have a dog trainer mindset. Pet owners normally don't have a dog trainer mindset. And what I mean by that is that we see something that could potentially become a problem or a problem starts arising and we're like, oh no, we got to fix that right now. Right now. Right? And there's no waiting for tomorrow. We are going to work on that now to make sure it doesn't become an issue. While owners see these problems, they're like, oh, that's not that bad. That's not that bad. And then eventually, now it's out of control. Right?
Yep. It's out of control because you didn't question the dog doing the behavior in the beginning. Correct. Like, as simple as today when I'm out playing badminton with my fiance and I have my dog outside. I could have been like, oh, he can just, like, grab the thing and run around with it, and, like, I'm not going to tell him to out. He's just having fun. No, because then I'm not going to be able to play with my wife.
Yeah.
He's going to take it, and he's not going to get it back, and he's going to get aggressive over it or possessive in the case of an untrained dog, and it's like, that's a behavioral problem that you could have easily said, hey, man, let's just, like, drop that. Leave it alone. This is my playtime.
Like here's a good example with me and my dog, my Catahoula, right? Catahoula loves to cuddle with me at night, but she also takes up a lot of the bed. She's 95 pounds, right? And my husky's great. He'll just sleep at the foot of the bed, but my hula wants to literally use my pillow with me. You know? My hula also likes to try to get between me and my wife and then push my wife with her paws. My wife doesn't like that. Right? So my dogs do have, off commands, like off or down or whatever, to get off the bed. And and my wife will, down, Nezzy down, right? And I'm fine with that. I don't have to cuddle with my dog all night, right? That's cool. Like, my wife wants my dog off the bed. Dog won't listen. So my wife will use pressure and use negative reinforcement type pressure, pushing the dog slowly, like not slamming it, just pushing the dog to where the dog's uncomfortable laying in that position. So the dog has to get up and move, right? Okay, cool.
Right.
However, one day my dog was so comfortable and didn't want to get off the fucking bed. It's a Catahoula anyway. Like, of course they're going to be independent thinkers. She said no, right? And she fucking air snapped at my wife, right? I immediately took that fucking collar, grabbed it, and yanked my dog off the fucking bed. I said, off,
Yep.
and yanked her off the fucking bed. And when she turned around to try to get back up, I'm like, no, go lay down, right? Go lay down.
Right.
And she went and laid down, right? It was one of those things where it's like, as a pet owner, I could have been like, that's not cool. That's not cool she did that, but she's really comfortable right now. We can deal with it or whatever.
Right.
This is the first time she's ever done that. You know, it's not a big deal. We've had her for 3.5, 4 years now, and she's never done that before, whatever. It's a one-off thing. To me, it's like, no, that's not a one-off thing. That is a
Absolutely not.
behavior that is absolutely unacceptable and will not happen in my house.
Exactly.
Right?
You don't have to. I feel like people don't understand that. Like, we can sit here and we can talk about genetics and nuance, and we should let dogs be dogs, but there are behaviors that you don't need to allow.
Yep.
If you don't want your dog biting at your hands, say no. And guess what? Give it another outlet. You can find an outlet. You can. If your dog really is that dedicated to biting your hands, and you're really that dedicated to not stopping it, buy yourself a Demonet bite suit and go play with your dog.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I let my dogs roughhouse with me very hard. But the thing is, I also have an off switch. I think that you can do anything with your dogs, no matter what it is, as long as you have an off switch. Right? If you don't have an off switch for your dog, then your dog shouldn't be doing that thing. Just in general, it just shouldn't. Right? So, like, when my husky is playing rough with me, he will bite my arms hard. He won't break skin, but man, that pressure hurts sometimes, right? But I can deal with it because that's how I like to play with my dogs. However, once it gets too much, I just say enough. That's all I have to say, enough. And my dogs are trained that is their off switch for that game. And when it's an off switch, my dog's like, okay, I'll walk away and do something else.
Exactly. You gotta stop right now, bro. Like, don't do it again until I re-engage you. And it shows trust in the dog too. It shows that they understand exactly what you're asking them, and people don't get that stuff, man. They don't understand the intrinsic, like, clear communication. And they're like, oh, I'm communicating clearly. You're speaking to them like you would speak to your friend.
Yep.
You aren't really communicating clearly. Here's the thing, if you were saying all of the same things you're saying to your dog, but you had done it with a leash and maybe some luring, and then you shaped it up with an e-collar, I would agree with you, because that's what me and my dog do. I can have basically full sentence speaking to him, but he still understands what I'm saying to him because I'm actually using the words he knows. But if you even backed it up with that, no, your dog does not understand. All right, man, let's go over here. We're going to go get some food, and then you're going to go on place. I'm going to get you some water, all right, bro? The dog doesn't get that because you didn't teach it what it means. You're just speaking nonsense to the dog.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, absolutely. I think one of the bigger things is, like, people like to humanize dogs, right? And that's not a great thing all the time. However, on the other end of it is, if you're actually going to humanize your dog, why don't you humanize your dog with the punishment side of things, right? If your kid was going around fighting other fucking kids all the time, you would put an end to that shit real fucking quick.
Right.
Right? But you're not going to do the same to your dog? Why?
Exactly.
Now, if your kid, now, here's the thing: is your dog is literally your kid. Your dog fighting other dogs is like your kid fighting other kids, but your kid has knives.
Yep. Right. We're in the age where people don't really want to discipline their children, and so that's why dogs aren't getting disciplined. Because if we look back 100 years, the dog training books from the 1920s. Not only were the children disciplined, and I'm not going to get into whether I agree or disagree with that shit, but, the children were disciplined and the dogs were disciplined, okay? People knew what they were doing. Some semblance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, it's true, though. I mean, it's true. Like, I couldn't imagine, like, dogs do whatever the fuck they want all the time. Like, could you imagine, like, you walking into your parents' house, walking in the kitchen, like, as, like, let's say a middle schooler or some shit, right? You walking in there and you lighting up a cigarette inside your parents' kitchen at, like fucking, like, 12 years old or some shit. Like, could you, I couldn't imagine like, what would happen to me if I did that shit, right?
You say walking into your living room with a cigarette?
Yeah, you just, like, as a kid growing up in your parents' house, just walking in that house with a cigarette, lighting up, and just smoking that cigarette inside that living room with your parents next to you. Yeah, like, could you imagine just as a
days they do that? They got 7 different vape flavors. Mom, you want to try it?
yeah, like, but like, but our dogs, doing all these very unacceptable and inappropriate behaviors, that's fine for some reason. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah. Because it's simple, like you commented on my video today, a really well-conditioned no marker changes everything.
Yeah, it's an extremely powerful. It's extremely powerful, is what I think I said. A very well-conditioned no marker is extremely powerful, and it is so powerful. Like, when I condition a no, the no is paired with high level aversives, right? So that way, if my dog decides to bolt out a door to chase a car down the road, and I say no, my dog should absolutely freeze in its tracks.
Yeah.
It should say, "Oh, this thing happened, and I know what happens next."
Right.
So.
And don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dog, we can be outside, and he'll, German Shepherd, they're gonna chase squirrels. I don't really give a shit. I'm in my own backyard. If I say no, he pauses, he bolts, he looks at me. He's like, "Oh, all right, I guess we're done doing that." I'm like, yeah, come. And he's like, "Oh, okay, I guess we're not chasing squirrels anymore." It's like, yeah. Real quickly. It's a flip of a button. And if I say, "Hey, okay, free," yeah, go get those squirrels again. But seriously, it's game changing once people put the pieces together.
For sure.
I feel like a lot of people just forget how to put the pieces together. Yeah. But there's so much nuance to it all that we all make it impossible for everyone, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also, social media kind of doesn't help with it when people are looking up dog training methods and techniques and stuff. I think a big aspect of it is the problem is window shopping for dog training.
Yeah.
Right? When people are window shopping dog training, and what I mean by that is you go and look up, like, this one trainer and their methods. Okay, that could work for your dog. But then you look up another trainer that does different methods. That could also work for your dog. And then this other trainer, that could also work for your dog. And they're all different, right? And then you keep going down that rabbit hole, and then you try to implement everything.
Yeah.
And it's not going to work real well in your favor because there's different methods that do different things, and they're going to sometimes be competing methods like that opposed to each other, right? So it's not going to really communicate well with your dog. And I think that's
where the creativity comes into it, because you have to know what you're supposed to be looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I absolutely. And I think as a dog trainer myself, like a professional dog trainer, you might be in your own niche, right? Go lay down. 1 second. Go lay down. Go. Good. Down. Good, Charlie. If you heard him, he came up and started whining in my face, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. And that's one thing that the owner told me, that whenever anybody else comes over and he's whining like that, they just give him a treat to shut him up. And I'm like, why? That you're rewarding the behavior.
Exactly, dude.
like this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a whole long ass like training sessions of me literally just ignoring this dog. Like,
yeah.
Like, that's what I'm doing. The dog wants attention. You know what I just did? Go lay the fuck down. Like, no.
Do you find it difficult to untrain the owners?
Yes and no. It really depends, and it's worse in a multi-human household, right? So a lot of owners, what really hits home though is if you can put things in perspective to their selves, right? Come up with anecdotes, right? A good example would be. I have, let's say, 2 owners, a husband, wife, or whatever partners they are, right? And one of them works from home, and and the other one, goes to work and comes home. The one that goes to work and comes home actually does really well with their rules and stuff like that. However, the one that works from home is horrible about it. The dog always demands attention, always gets attention. No matter what, the dog gets what it wants. So I put this in, here's an anecdote. This is a real experience that I had. And I made the anecdote very quickly for him. I'm like, okay, look, let's say your partner is off work and you're at work, right? You work from home and you're sitting at your computer and you're on a conference call with your bosses, right? And your partner keeps coming up and is like, hey babe, hey babe, hey babe, hey babe, hey babe, what are you gonna do? And she's like, I tell them to fuck off. I'm like, why can't you do that with your dog?
Right. Go somewhere. Leave me alone.
Yes.
Don't give him a treat.
Why can't you? Why? And that was like one of those things where it clicked in their head. They're like, I mean, wow, you're right. I can't. Like, why don't I? Yeah, exactly. That's the problem here. Your dog has no boundaries because you don't set any. Right?
Yeah.
So
No, sure.
anecdotes really help when it comes to training owners, right? And also another big thing is we don't want to, like, when we're training owners, a lot of times owners are going to become very defensive if we make it seem like they're the fault, they're the problem, like it's all their fault, right? So trying to figure out a way to explain it to them to where they still have the power of feeling like they're in the right. They just didn't know better, or they didn't have the education. That's completely fine. That is, you have to do it that way, because if you straight up are just like, look at your fucking handling skills, like what the fuck are you doing type of situation, you're the reason why your dog's acting like this. If you're doing that way, they're not going to even call your ass back when you could have done so much more benefits for them, right? So like, there are times though that you do have to be very, very blunt about things. Another example would be an owner was, their dog is very reactive to other animals. And not reactive like I want to fight, more reactive of I want to meet you and play with you and I'm overstimulated, so I'm gonna look aggressive. And so we were in the park, other dogs around, and I told her, I was like, tell your dog to sit real quick. And she's like, Yogi, sit. Can you please sit? Come on, sit. And I stopped and I was like, don't ask, tell. And she's like, Yogi, sit. And Yogi sat down right away. I'm like, there you go. I'm like, stop asking your dogs to do things and command your dogs to do things. It has to be, it can't, it has to be a crisp command, and it has to be that same command every time. Sit is sit. Mm-hmm. Not please sit. Can you please sit? Can you sit for me? It's none of that. It's Yogi,
I feel like
sit.
It's a cue, not a choice.
Mm-hmm. It is. Absolutely. Another thing is precursors, right? Too many people put dogs' names in front of everything. Yogi, sit. Yogi, stay. Yogi, come. It should just be sit, stay, come. Right? I can understand in like multi-dog households, like I do this with my dogs. My dogs know their names. I've trained their names for engagement, individual engagement. So that way I can say come and they'll both come. I can say Gojo, come. And that Gojo's the one that looks at me and comes. And Nezzy might, because I said come, but she doesn't have to. I didn't tell her to directly, right? And it really helps with a lot of stuff like door etiquette, right? If they both try to barrel out the door when I release them, that might not be fun for them. I know my dogs real well. I know they both want to go outside, but I know Gojo's going to jump over Nezzy and barrel through faster than Nezzy will run through the door. So I always say, Gojo, free. And Nezzy will stay there, and then I'll say Nezzy free, and then it's her turn, right? So I can release them separately from different commands as well. So I can understand that. However, your commands should be trained as commands, not with precursors of their names.
Yeah.
And especially with punishment, never use a dog's name as a precursor for punishment or just their name for punishment, right? Like the amount of times where a dog is doing something that they need to be, punished for, that the owner is just like Fido, and they just scream the dog's name.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why would you take that dog's name and make it negative? Like, imagine every single day of your life, somebody says your name in a really shitty way. Emotionally and mentally, you'll start to break down.
Yeah.
I've had dogs before where I have had to tell the clients they're gonna have to change the dog's name.
Oh yeah.
Straight up, there you're gonna have to change the dog's name because the dog has such a emotionally driven like bad association with their name
Hmm.
that you trying to fix that is going to be a lot harder than just naming them something else.
Yeah. I feel like that's the best and worst part about having to be brutally honest. Would you say?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It sucks sometimes. It does. Like, especially with the B mod cases, like you these owners' lives are being ruined by these dogs. Their entire lives are literally gravitated around managing their dogs, right?
Hmm.
And then some of them are terrified of their dogs, and their dogs are going to maul them, but they don't have enough like emotional fortitude to euthanize the dog, right? So instead, they're going to just deal with the dog and live with the dog, even though they're terrified of this dog, and nobody's going to take this dog off their hands,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, what do you do here, right? So whenever one of us are coming out there to work with these owners, like we're almost like like therapists ourselves. Like you're
Yeah.
getting into a very emotional part of an owner's life, right? Something
And going back
that
to what you said,
they're
where you're
fragile.
developing these connections with these people
Mm-hmm.
so deeply because they're involving you so deeply into the core daily parts of their lives.
Yeah, the emotional parts, the fragile parts of their lives that other people don't get to see. I've had clients cry. I have had
Hmm.
clients that once their dogs got under control in a session to where they didn't have outbursts happening left and right because their dogs were finally in control, whether they were a little bit shut down at the time or afraid. I don't fucking care. The dog needed to be in control at this time. And I've had clients cry because the amount of relief they had that they saw their dog actually being able to genuinely be respectful about boundaries and not fucking try to eat somebody's face for the first time ever. And
Yeah.
and like they break down, man, sometimes. It's wild, dude. And like then at that point it's like, me, I'm not going to come and pat their shoulder and be like, it's okay and stuff. I'm going to cheer them on and be like, look, you deserve this.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
deserve all of these good emotions that you are feeling right now. This relief, you deserve this.
Yep.
And it's just going to get better
Right.
from here. Right?
Exactly.
I'm their biggest cheerleader, man.
That's what you have to be. That's good.
Absolutely. And it's funny,
That's
like,
awesome.
going back to the social media thing, it's funny though. Like, I could only imagine like American Standard and Dog Daddy and even Cesar Millan and stuff, and the amount of people that hate what they're doing. But and when we read comments and the amount of hate we get, like I have multiple campaigns right now going against me trying to cancel me. It's hilarious. Um,
Yeah.
but like then I look at the clients texting me, like a text I got today. Actually, I'll read it for you right now. It actually made me very, very happy. Right.
Hmm.
I was scheduling. We were scheduling a nail trim. I've worked with these dogs. Not. It was originally training high levels of reactivity, and it was just god awful for her on any walk she went on, and it was hard for her, right?
Yeah.
And she texted me today with a picture of her dog loose leash walking, saying, "Look who's being a good loose lead walker on just a martingale. Decided to experiment without the prong collar, and he's been a very good boy." Right?
Wonderful.
And I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
yeah, and I'm like, yay, right? Now here's where it gets even better, right? I made a little video on TikTok showing original baseline, little clips of what we did, and then that message, that text you gave me, and I said, let's fully appreciate how far you and Yogi have come and your accomplishments, right? Because if she didn't put in the work, she would have never accomplished this stuff, right? And then she says, he's come such a long way. We go for a 1.3 mile loop every single day, and it's my favorite part of the day. Before, it was absolute hell. And then I'm like, woot woot, I'm happy for you. And she said, oh my God, I haven't been on TikTok in so long, and I'm just now seeing where you mentioned me in the comments. So many opinions about Mr. Yogi. And then she continues, I'm never going to be a perfect dog handler, nor do I care to be, and he's never going to be a perfect walker, nor do I need him to be. We just enjoy walking together now without any real drama or chaos, and that was my goal. I love seeing dog owners out bonding with their dogs and enjoying walks, and I'm so glad I get to be one of them now.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
That's what it's all about.
That is what it is all about, right? And
you were able to help that person
achieve
the means to their end, and that's what it's about. Fuck all these people who are selling these, like, all this extra shit that a dog owner doesn't want. You help that person achieve the only thing they wanted.
And they wanted to be able to bond with their dog and walk their dog without chaos and hell.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's all they wanted, and they see all these people walking their dogs around because they're in a very, very big dog walking area, right? So they see people walking their dogs all the time, and people enjoying walking their dogs, while she has a dog that is just flipping the fucking out all the fucking time, right? And it's embarrassing for her, and she just wants to be like those other owners where she can just walk her dog. That's all she wants to do is just walk her dog. And it's life fucking changing. It really is for these people. And the comment she was talking about, because I sent her the TikTok video, and when she was talking about she hasn't been on a long time and saw some comments that I tagged her in. I tagged her in a couple comments because I was showing some Yogi stuff. That's her dog Yogi. And and I was showing the harsh corrections we were doing, everything from like e-collars that made the fucking dog yelp to a fucking like harsh prong corrections that made the dog yelp and shit. And people were talking about, you're just going to make the behavior worse. The dog is going to shut down. Your behavioral fallout, this, that, and the other, right?
Oh, is Yogi the husky?
No, Yogi's the black dog, little black. It's.
I saw another video people were shitting on you for, and it was a husky. You know?
Yeah, no.
Like, which one?
No. So I'll talk about the husky in a second if you want. But so Yogi is a Schnauzer pit bull mix.
Okay.
And but yeah, they were losing their shit about like how we were working the dog, saying all these things are gonna happen and stuff. And that's why I tagged her. I'm like, why don't we just ask the owner? Why don't we ask the owner what their opinion is of how Yogi acts, instead of you trying to come up with some weird assessment off of a 30-second video? And so that's what she was talking about. But like her saying, like, the very last thing she said, I love seeing dog owners out bonding with their dogs and enjoying walks, and I'm so glad I get to be one of them now. That says so much to me. Like that, you want to know what my favorite part about this job is when I'm working with these dogs? The dogs that I have had my ribs broken before. I've bites on my face, bites up and down my arms, stitches, and so on. I've been fucked up by dogs, right? The reason why I keep going back is because I get shit like that, where I know I'm making differences and I'm changing people's lives and I'm saving dogs' lives. Like,
exactly.
That's why I do it.
That means the world to you, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Like, fuck any Dunning-Kruger imposter syndrome you could ever have in this world.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure getting messages like that literally changes exactly how you feel about any day-to-day interaction you ever have. Literally, fuck what anyone says to you on TikTok about what you've ever done in your training.
Right.
You have that back you up.
Well, that's exactly, and that's why I don't stop posting. That's why I don't stop posting. That's why I don't sugarcoat what I do. That's why I don't say, like, balance trainers, they do this all the time, and it fucking pisses me off. They try to meet the force-free crowd with their talking points by saying stuff like, the e-collar is not an aversive training tool, it's a communication device, right? No, an e-collar fucking sucks. It doesn't feel good. It's an aversive tool. It's not supposed to feel good. Yes, you can use the beep and vibrate and even a very low stimulation and load it like a clicker and train it for different things, sure. But in the end, it is a punishment tool and a negative reinforcement tool to cause discomfort and or pain to make the dog comply. That is what is meant for.
Like, oh, it's my recall device. My recall device.
Yeah, so...
My recall device.
Yeah, I don't...
That's it?
Yeah, I don't like the sugarcoating of it. I'm going to be honest about it. Yes, this is what it is. This is what it does.
Yep.
And I use the fuck out of them.
Well, it works.
Yeah, and it
Literally,
works. And I'm changing lives and I'm saving dogs.
anytime I don't have my e-collar on and I have like a slip leash or a long line on, I'm like, everything I'm doing right now will be so much easier if I just have my e-collar on.
Yeah.
It's everything will be so much easier. So my dog is my dog. I don't have bad behavioral problems, but it's either he's on a flat collar and he's behaving, but he tests me 15 times because he's like, well, Dad's not actually forcing me to stop doing that, so why would I?
Yeah.
I'm going to walk right back over here because he's not going to stop me. Or do I want to hit him on a 30 on the e-collar once and say no?
That's the thing, right? And I can bring up the science on this too. 1 second. Enough. Go. Come on. Inside. Inside. Up. I know what you're doing. Come on. Come on. Good. This way. Go lay down. Down. Good. Again, B-mod case, and we are still training while I'm on this episode with you.
Hey, that's what's up, man.
Yeah, dude. 2 birds with 1 stone. But what were you just saying? What were you just saying? Right before that, what did you just say?
God, I have no idea.
Whatever it was, it will come back to us. I'm ADHD as fuck, and I'm actually ADHD diagnosed.
My own dog. So I will have him out on the flat collar, and I have to ask him 15 times to stop doing the same thing, or I can correct him on the e-collar 1 time, and he will stop.
Okay, yes,
and
thank you.
It goes into negative reinforcement versus positive punishment, because negative reinforcement, the fucking behavior continues and creates itself and creates itself and creates itself. Or you can punish it and you're decreasing it.
Yeah. So it depends. Yeah, obviously depends on what you're doing. Are you creating pressure they're trying to avoid, and to turn it off they have to do something, or are you trying to just stop a behavior? There you got negative reinforcement or punishment, right? Now, what I was going to say about that specifically, when you mentioned like I can just get it once on like a 30, right? Let's go back into the whole like working level and then like increasing it, right? I find that's bullshit, right? It is heavily bullshit unless you're trying to say the working level is what we use for stimulating a negative reinforcement, right? You're making it a lower stimulation that's uncomfortable for the dog that they want to avoid and escape, and they have to do something to do so, right? However, if you're going to use a positive punishment, 1 time, it's so aversive, they don't want to do it, they avoid it, right? The whole idea of a working level is bullshit, because if you do it and they avoid it, but you have to keep doing it day after day, time after time, because the dog is just continuing to do the thing, right? What you're doing is you're creating temporary avoidance with a lower level, right? You're also creating an inhibition to the stimuli, right? So which means you're gonna have to crank it up even higher eventually, because the dog learns to just blow through it. Now, what you could do though is you could crank that motherfucking e-collar up to 99, and when the dog does the thing, you hit it once, and the dog said, "Ow, that sucked. I really didn't like that," right? I try it one more time. That really sucked. I'll never do that again. Long-term behavioral change, right? And we have science that actually backs that up, right? We have science that backs that up. And so, like, I'm a big fan of, like, I don't fucking care. I'll crank an e-collar up to use it once or twice so I don't ever have to fucking use it again to create avoidance, right? Like, a dog, a trainer, I don't know if you've ever heard of Miracle Canine, David, the dog trainer.
I know of him, but I'm not familiar with this, like,
great
program.
Fucking great trainer. He also has a podcast. He's been on my podcast too. Great, phenomenal dog trainer. There's almost nothing that me and him disagree with when it comes to our training methods, styles, our knowledge and understanding of canine behavior and learning theory and so on, and our ideals and so on. Like we're almost the exact same people, like when it comes down to that shit, right? We might describe it differently, and there's once in a while certain things we don't agree with, but it's so small I can't even remember a single one of them, right? However, like he was talking about a situation where a dog was eating soil out of potted plants, right? And it wasn't any time the owners were around. It's right when they left the room, the dog would just walk out and eat a chunk of soil, right? So he what he did was he set a phone up inside that room facing the potted plant, and then he FaceTimed himself on a different device. They left the room, and he had that e-collar cranked the fuck up. The dog went to go eat the soil, bam, got blasted.
Yeah.
And it was only one time. The dog only needed one time, and ever since then, years later, and the client has talked to him years later, the dog has yet to try to eat soil out of a potted plant ever again. It took that one time.
That's
I'd much rather, if we're talking about the like welfare needs of a dog, right? Like because that's usually the talking point when it comes to force-free type stuff, the welfare needs of a dog. I much rather temporarily in the moment create a very distressing, high stress, painful situation for a dog in the moment and have long-term results that is going to better the welfare forever for that dog, rather than have the dog continue a behavior that is detrimental to the dog's health and psyche.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and so if we're really talking about welfare needs of a dog, we got to look at long term, not in the moment. And unfortunately, all the studies that people cite only look at like the stress levels in the moment and never look at long term like behavioral changes and baseline stress levels. Like a baseline stress level of a dog that is just like highly fucking anxious and reactive to anything, compared to after we're done with training and the dog learns to exist in the space of this stuff and is no longer being reactive, what's the baseline stress levels then? Like, let's test the cortisol at the baseline before and after, like, long term, and see. I guarantee my use of aversives during these times is going to eventually create a baseline that is less stressful for the dog in the future.
Well, just think about how many hours are in a day. There's 24 hours in a day.
Mm-hmm.
If you make a dog uncomfortable for 3 seconds, maybe even if you really have to, even maybe up to 10 seconds for some reason, you know, that's 10 seconds out of a 24-hour day.
Yeah.
And that's how many hours, that's how many seconds of accumulated corrections over their entire, God willing, 15-year lifespan.
Yeah, I don't know the math, but it's a lot, dude. It's a lot.
Right, it's a lot of seconds.
It's a lot of seconds. It is. Like, I mean, I keep talking about punishment a lot, and that's what we're been talking about a lot. Like, we could talk about the reinforcement side of things because that always comes afterwards.
I only really feel like you need to worry about that during a foundational case. If you need to get back to a dog's baseline, you're not worried about the foundation. And unfortunately, you're going to use punishment and relationship building techniques.
Yes.
But you're not going to worry about food luring. You have a dog that's trying to maul you. You are not food luring into a deal.
So when it comes to like reinforcements, right? And we're talking about behavior, I'm not trying to reinforce a new behavior. I'm not trying to counter condition something. I'm not trying to get a dog to go in a sit instead of chasing a car, right? What I'm utilizing reinforcements for is to classically condition, change the emotional state of the dog, right? These are things you like. It feels good while you're around a stressful trigger. That normally, scares you or freaks you out. Let's change that emotional state. You look at it, you're around it, but good things keep happening, and that it doesn't. I'm not timing it out every time you sit. Doing this. There's no pattern to it. All it is random fucking rewards for existing in this space, right?
Yeah.
Now, however, and this is where people get pissed off, right? When it comes to a good B mod, trainer. What we're normally going to do is we are going to look at a situation and unfortunately we're going to go to compulsion punishment first, right? That's going to be the first thing we do. Unfortunately, is the situation. We're looking at the owners, their handling skills, even their physical abilities. We're looking at the environment. We're looking at everything to figure out what we need to do with this dog. We're looking at the dog's behavior, their threshold levels, and so on. But most of the time, what's going to happen is we're going to have to use punishment and compulsion to get the dog under control. And then after the dog is under control, whether we shut the dog down slightly or a lot, doesn't matter, whether the dog is afraid, or anything like that, we got the dog under control. Now that the dog is under control and is now not as much of a fucking risk of mauling somebody or another dog or anything like that, now we can start working on counter conditioning and classical conditioning. Now we can work on operant conditioning. Now we can start changing the emotional states of the dog because the other shit's under control. So I tend to lead to the punishment side of it first when it comes to these severe cases, and then I follow up with all the other fun things.
Yeah, I can see that.
But people don't like that. People think that, oh, you need to work from a distance and then give rewards and do all this shit. It's like, why? Why the fuck would I want to stress a dog out for the next 3 months when I can just stress the dog out for the next 10 minutes?
Yeah, literally.
Why?